Part 179. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1786. The Emperor Chain was originally an immortal weapon created by Xianxia using the immortal way. It can be said that it was made by him. If the 5 chains are complete, it is impossible to say that Xianxia can combine the 5 into one, thus forming the original Emperor Chain. He simply could not imagine how powerful the original Emperor Chain was. But what is certain is that the benefit that Xianxia mentioned before must be the synthesis of these 5 Emperor Chains. It is even possible that there will be loopholes in this Emperor Chain for people to be bound and protected by the immortal Dao. If this is the case, if there is an immortal Lord again, what's the point of defense? I have the origin of the glazed world in my hand, and I can grind people to death. From the time Zuyun realized the problem from these 4 Emperor Chains to the time Zuyun wanted to combine 5 Emperor Chains into one, the total amount was only about half a cup of tea. Xianxia didn't have much hope in his heart. But suddenly, the imperial chain that tightly bound his body suddenly shook. Before he could react, there was a crashing sound. The next moment, the Emperor Chain fell off from its fixed place. At the same time, the law of 4 symbols was also reflected on it, and Zuyun saw the phantoms of the 4 divine beasts. Humph, it's just a phantom created by using the law of 4 symbols, and it's just done by force. Even if I don't understand, I think that after some time, the immortal will come out sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. Maybe there is a mastermind behind the scenes. Just want to get something within this time. Zuyun murmured and narrowed his eyes. When the shadows of the 4 divine beasts dispersed, he saw the dull-looking Xianxia. Zuyun, is this solved? He was the one who was bound, for countless years. He could naturally detect this sudden change in strength. But obviously, he couldn't believe the facts. Zuyun smiled slightly and said, yes, it's solved. But next, you still need to unlock the locks that hold your hands and feet. Xianxia nodded like a pound of garlic. Quick, quick. Zuyun, you are so awesome. Xianxia also forced himself to suppress the excitement in his heart and nodded repeatedly to Zuyun. Don't worry, Zuyun chuckled and said, what you said before, do you mean what you say? What did I say? Xianxia said too much, maybe some of it was said by him unintentionally. Now that freedom is in Zuyun's hands, he is afraid that he will cause Zuyun to misunderstand, so he asks carefully. Of course you will give these 4 Emperor Chains to me. Here you go, I'll definitely give it to you. Upon hearing this, Xianxia immediately patted his chest, and the Emperor's Chain made a clattering sound under his movements. That's good. Zuyun felt so relaxed, and then used the divine eye technique to look at the lock on Xianxia's right hand. Under the magic, the lines on the lock can be seen clearly. But this time, he saw 2 law lines going in different directions. It has nothing to do with the 4 images. There were only 2 of them, so Zuyun naturally thought of yin and yang. But Zuyun didn't understand the Tao of Lianji very well, which made him frown. Xianxia also sensed Zuyun's sad expression, so he asked in a low voice, isn't it hard to untie what I'm holding onto? Zuyun nodded, looking at the somewhat submissive Xianxia. He was also secretly amused, and the unhappiness caused by being interrupted in his thoughts disappeared instantly. After thinking about it for a moment, he said, it's not that easy. There is the law of 2 appearances on it. I happen to be not very proficient in it. I can only say that I have a superficial understanding of it. Xianxia was anxious. You can even understand the 4 symbols, so it stands to reason that Liangyi would be simpler. Why, are these rules still getting more complicated with more rules? Zuyun was stunned for a moment. In his understanding, the fewer the rules, the harder it is to master them. But these words came from the immortal Lord's mouth, which made him somewhat doubtful. Of course, the less, the simpler, Xianxia said matter-of-factly, for example, up and down, left and right, positive and negative. The two rituals follow the principle of mutual growth and mutual restraint, relying on each other. Seeing that Zuyun didn't respond, he knew that the other party didn't understand it for a moment. He thought for a moment and said, "You are practicing the five elements transformation into chaos, right? The five elements are actually mutually reinforcing and restraining each other. It's almost like this relationship, but without you. So many, so complicated." Really? Zuyun disagreed. He did see the phenomenon of Lianji, but these two laws were intertwined but seemed to have no relationship. Speaking of which, his laws of time and space seem to be the same. Time and space, in the understanding of all immortals in the immortal world, seem to be two unrelated laws. But unfortunately, he understood the truth and finally combined the two laws together. So, is this also Lianji? From the current point of view, he has synthesized the two laws into one law, which is considered to be in line with the principle of transforming chaos into two forms. But to say that they are mutually reinforcing and incompatible is not entirely true. Zuyun thought for a moment and felt that no matter how he guessed, he had to give it a try to be sure. Simply, he took out the glazed fairy mirror from his chest. Wow! In an instant, the front and back sides of the fairy mirror emitted light almost simultaneously. One black and one white, entangled together half a foot in front of him. Huh! Zuyun couldn't help but feel suspicious. Before he could react, he saw two rays of light quickly merging together with the power of law. Could it be such a coincidence? Seeing this synthetic space-time law suddenly turn into the same gray-white color as the chaotic fairy power, and rushing to the lock, Zuyun couldn't help but be stunned. Click. The lock opened with a sound. Haha, Zuyun, I was right, it seems that my understanding of the two-element law is still helpful to you. Xianxia felt his hand was empty, and he couldn't help but be overjoyed, thinking it was his own power. Zuyun was too lazy to understand, and slightly turned the fairy mirror to aim at Xianxia's other hand. As expected, the lock opened instantly. Then came the 2 feet. After only a few breaths, Xianxia regained his freedom. He was so excited that he turned several somersaults on the spot, as if to confirm it. At the same time, Zuyun also felt a huge amount of fairy power gushing out from Xianxia's actions. As expected of the immortal master, Zuyun shrank his pupils, and while Xianxia's was still somersaulting, he directly sucked the 4 emperor chains into the immortal mirror. Huh? Good boy, you're really fast. Xianxia's seemed to be able to sense the existence of the emperor chain, and he immediately reacted, and found that the emperor chain disappeared, and he was angry and amused. My things, I decide how fast or slow I want to do it. Zuyun said slowly, but he was still looking at the space-time law that was like the chaotic immortal power. Will it be? The space-time law is in line with the chaos principle, so it can also become the law of chaos. Warm ti. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1787. I, Xianxia, keep my word. I will give it to you as I said. Xianxia was generous and did not care about it. Instead, his immortal consciousness dissipated, and after sweeping over Zuyun's body, he said, "Boy, I will help you break through this purgatory mountain formation, and then the bridge will return to the bridge, and the road will return. See you later, how about it?" Zuyun raised his eyebrows and said, "Have you thought about where to go?" "Of course, no more." Xianxia almost spilled the beans. He has immortal consciousness. In fact, whether he has eyes or not will not have a great impact on him. Unless he meets someone from the immortal king realm again and fights against him. If you really have nowhere to go, Zhu Yun rolled his eyes, recited the magic formula, took off Ximan Yuenking's bracelet from his hand, threw it away, and said, "Perhaps, you can go to chaos to find your origin." Spring. Huh. Xian Wuxing blinked, but without eyeballs. This action looked particularly eye-catching. He asked in surprise, "This immortal weapon has the breath of the original spring. Where did you come from? And, do you really not want to be the master of this world?" Zhu Yun said lightly, "That's not my ambition. As for the source of the spring, it won't be of much use if I get it." "Okay," Xian Wuxing said with a relaxed smile, "then I will help you break the formation first." "It's not necessary," Zhu Yun said that with the law of time and space in his body, it was actually not difficult to leave. What he was most afraid of was that the situation in Purgatory Mountain at this time was that a large formation was rising. If it breaks open, and 5 elements Xianxia and Linfei escape, wouldn't all their previous efforts be wasted? "It's up to you," Xian Wuxing said without forcing it, "then I'll leave on my own. If you can't come out then, don't blame me." "What do I blame you for?" Zhu Yun also has a plan in mind, but he has to enter the world of colored glaze. Of course, it was impossible for him to let Xian Wuxing know about the existence of his portable world. "You should leave quickly. I heard that both Dongfang Bai and Ximan Yuanqing are looking for your source of origin." Zhu Yun wished Xian Wuxing would leave now. "Those two little guys, if you can help me find it, it will save me a lot of time. Now that I am out of trouble, the source of origin, even if they find it, don't even think about taking it for themselves." Xian Wuxing didn't care at all, and understood what Zhu Yun meant, and said immediately, "It's you who drove me away." "Don't say I'm rude then, As soon as he finished speaking, his figure immediately disappeared from the spot. When Zhu Yun sensed his aura again, he was already several miles away. Xian Wuxing actually has such a mysterious escape technique. You want to be clever and think I don't know, right? Zhu Yun also showed a relaxed smile. Xian Wuxing pretended not to think of telling him how to combine the 5 chains into one, but he didn't know that Zhu Yun had already seen through the Emperor chain. With his control over the 5 elements law, he is completely able to do it on his own. And the most important thing is that before the Emperor chain is synthesized, he can attack them separately and use an Emperor chain to tie up the 5 elements loose immortal again. Then, let Bei Minjiun suppress Linfei. Xian Wuxing's aura quickly disappeared into the Purgatory Mountain. Obviously, the Purgatory Mountain formation could not trap him at all. Zhu Yun also walked slowly outside. After confirming that Xian Wuxing had really left, he flashed at the entrance of the cave and entered the glazed world. "Go to the formation immortal first. Now I am proficient in the space law a lot. Apart from not knowing some space immortal laws, it is not difficult to wake up the formation immortal. In addition to the array immortal, there is also Ji Tianqing. However, his problem is not difficult either. Xian Wuxing said that Yanhan powder corroded the immortal roots, so you only need to use Yanhan powder externally." Zhu Yun appeared at the gate of the immortal mansion, and the dragon suppressing stone immediately sensed it, and it transformed into a body from the plaque. He smiled at Zhu Yun and said, "Master, you haven't been here for a long time. There must be something wrong with not coming here. Didn't you notice that I have accessed the Chaos Immortal power in the Immortal Mansion?" "Of course I feel it," Zhenlongxi said quickly after hearing Zhu Yun's words. "I originally wanted to walk around in the glazed world, but I happened to notice the master's move, and I was afraid that your immortal power might not be enough at any time, so I dare not leave even an inch." "Why," Zhu Yun smiled, "are you here to take credit?" "Don't dare." Zhenlongxi shook his head repeatedly, then turned to Zhu Yun and said, "Master, if you have anything to do when you come in this time, just ask me to do it." Zhu Yun glanced at him and said, "To show your love for nothing, it's either adultery or robbery. Tell me, what do you want to do?" Xianxia denied it and said, Master, this glazed world is now under my control. I can know every move. What else do I want to do? Oh. Zuyun actually knew that the dragon suppressing stone would eventually reach this level. However, it did surprise him that it could be achieved so quickly. You can feel it in this world, but what about the sun, moon, and stars in the sky? Xianxia looked embarrassed. Master, if I reach that level, it means that the world of colored glaze has been fully formed. Even if you fall in the future, this world will still naturally exist in the fairy world. Are you cursing me? Zuyun glared and said that when it came to his death, this dragon-suppressing stone was not very good at talking. Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. Xianxi's expression changed drastically and he said, Master, how dare I think like that? I was just making a metaphor. Zuyun suddenly smiled and said, I'm kidding you. Since you can sense the movements of the whole world, can you send me to where I want to go? This, actually, the master can do it himself. It's nothing more than consuming some chaotic immortal power. Really? This is simply a pleasant surprise. Really? Xianxia nodded, turned to look at the fairy mansion, and then said, Master, do you still remember the small courtyard that originally led to the universe world? Of course I remember. Zuyun's heart moved, and he responded. After the fusion of the fairy mansion, the small courtyard has also changed. As long as the master thinks of a place in this world, and then walks through the gate, he will appear there immediately. Zuyun was overjoyed. This is much more convenient. Let's go and take a look. Although City Lord Shui has set up many teleportation arrays in the glass world. But after all, it has not reached the point where you can go wherever you want. The residual soul of the array fairy is in the world sea, but the teleportation array can only reach the imperial city of Qingping Fairyland, which is still a long way from the world. Let's go. Xianxia hurriedly led the way in front to show his loyalty. A moment later, they stood in front of the courtyard. Master, please. The two walked one after the other through the courtyard and finally stood in front of the house. As long as they pushed the door open, they could appear anywhere in the Liulai world. Zuyun took a deep breath and silently recited the world sea in his heart. Then, he pushed open the door. A flash of light flashed in front of his eyes, and the scene changed. The next moment, Zuyun stood at the seashore of the world sea. The place where Xianxia once achieved the immortal palace instrument fairy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1788. Sure enough, Suankai. Zuyun was overjoyed and turned to look at the dragon-suppressing stone. Well done. How could dragon-suppressing stone dare to ask for credit? He quickly apologized and said with a smile, the master is still great, I'm just a janitor. If you can speak, just speak more. Zuyun laughed, it was also a joke, then his mind moved, and the next moment he discovered the location of the remnant soul of the formation immortal in his mind. After recuperating here and being protected by some sea monsters, the formation immortal was able to turn into a humanoid silhouette again. Although a little hollow, he can still appear in human form. Ahem, Zuyun, are you here to see my joke? Seeing Zuyun and Xianxia coming together, the old Xianxian blushed. Array immortal, Zuyun's expression was frozen and extremely solemn. He stepped forward and said with cupped hands, if it weren't for you, my master would have died, and I would have been in great trouble. The 7-star bracelet that Yesuanhua was refining at that time, if not for the sudden intervention of the formation immortal, Yesuanhua would have died here without any accident as a monk. It was also the immortal formation who fought to the death to survive. You're welcome, you're welcome. Facing Zuyun's sincere tone, Xianxia was also a little embarrassed. Zuyun laughed and said, "Xianxia, you and I are not outsiders now. I came to see you today because I have good news." "What good news?" The array immortal was stunned for a moment, but then he understood what Zuyun meant. "Did you help me find the body of the immortal lord?" He was breathing rapidly. What he wants is not the realm of someone else's immortal lord, but the immortal body. In this way, he can quickly restore the realm of the immortal king. Even if it's not enough, it won't take much time to return to this state. The key is. Zuyun agreed very well at that time. Not only was he an immortal lord, he was also a handsome immortal lord. "That's right," Zuyun nodded and said, "however, I want to confirm some details with you. Under what circumstances, you can successfully obtain the body of the immortal king, and there will be no accidents?" "Simple," the immortal array said excitedly. "It's best to trap him and then destroy his immortal soul. In this way, the immortal soul is not there, and I can easily enter it. Secondly, the immortal body is still the same, and don't let me continue practicing. Then I can help you quickly." There was also a bright light in the eyes of the formation immortal, but these words made Zuyun also smile bitterly and said, "Trap the immortal king, the demon destroyed the immortal soul. I have no experience in such things." "You have no experience, I do." The immortal smiled mysteriously. "Have you forgotten what I am best at?" Without waiting for Zuyun's response, the formation immortal said confidently, "Formation. When I return to the fairy world, I can use the power of law to set up a grinding immortal soul-killing formation. This formation can preserve the immortal body, but can completely destroy the immortal soul. Of course, the premise is that the other party has no power to resist." Zuyun was not sure and said, "Is it okay?" "Of course," the formation immortal said from the passage. "In the entire immortal world, in terms of formation deo, no one can match me." Having known Zuyun for a long time, it is rare for a formation immortal to call himself me, which shows that he can't wait to return to the immortal realm. "Then just wait for my good news." Zuyun thought for a moment. If he were bound with the current emperor chain, he would probably be limited by the immortal way. No matter how strong the immortal grinding soul-killing formation of the formation immortal was, it would still be below the immortal way. This saves you from wasting the boss's strength and doing useless work. It's better to wait until the 5 emperor chains are synthesized. After Zuyun made up his mind, he went to Qingping Fairy Kingdom according to his original plan. But then, a question stumped him. "It's easy to come here from the immortal mansion, but what about going back or going to another place?" He looked at the dragon suppressing stone. Zhenlong Stone is also aware of this problem. "How about master, you just leave the Liulai world and enter it again. Anyway, you will appear in the immortal mansion as soon as you enter." Zhenlongshi looked embarrassed. Zuyun immediately sneered and said, "Do you want to take the opportunity to go out for a walk?" "Master, I swear, I really didn't think so. It was an accident. It was a complete accident." Snored. Zuyun didn't say much, leaving only a cold snort, then flashed away and left the Liulai world. It's still a big problem that you can't go there at will, but both the dragon suppressing stone and the immortal formation have said that after the Liulai world is completely perfected, you can go wherever you want. Now it's just a little more troublesome. Zuyun sighed and entered the Liulai world again, passing through the immortal mansion and arriving at the imperial city of Qingping Immortal Kingdom. After finding the queen's concubines and telling them how to treat Ji Tianqing, they returned to Purgatory Mountain. After feeling that nothing happened for the time being, Zuyun left the cave. After walking out of the restriction, Purgatory Mountain was still the same as before. He rushed to the mountain pass and found Bei Minjiun sitting cross-legged at the center of the seal. When she discovered that Zuyun was back, a look of joy appeared on her pretty face. "Zuyun, have you thought of a way?" Zhu Yun smiled slightly and said, I thought of it, but you wait here first. Although he can freely enter and leave the Purgatory Mountain formation, he cannot bring Bei Minjiun with him. Using the Divine Eye technique, Zhu Yun cautiously re-entered the formation. The evil fire was still there. Zhu Yun quickly used the fire escape technique, completely integrating his breath into the normal fire. Strange, why can I always feel a different breath of immortal power occasionally? At this time, it was Lin Fei's turn to release the evil spirit, and the 5 elements immortal looked up. I'm afraid you are upset and have illusions because you are trapped here. Lin Fei said in a muffled voice. The evil spirit has always been insufficient, and they are a little stretched. Especially Lin Ling, who is weaker than the 5 elements immortal, and has much less evil spirit than the 5 elements immortal, not to mention the ability to recover, which is also worse than the 5 elements immortal. You are the one who is upset, right? The 5 elements immortal laughed meaningfully, and then kept silent. How could he not know what Lin Fei meant? If the other party really dared to make a move, he would kill Lin Fei here no matter what. Even if he really had to die here and be refined by the righteous fire, he would let Lin Fei die first. Only by being alive can he wait for Zhu Yun to come here. Little did he know that Zhu Yun was quietly passing by him and sneaking into the bottom of the valley. The emperor chain that had bound the 5 elements immortal and Bei Minjiun was in a corner at the bottom of the valley. After he suddenly untied the 5 elements immortal, Lin Zhenghong immediately wiped out Lin Fei's mark on the emperor chain. Even if Lin Fei wanted to refine it again for his own use, he didn't have any time at the moment. Otherwise, he would definitely have to refine it again. If he really fought with the 5 elements immortal, he would have a chance of survival. Thinking of this, Lin Fei glanced at the emperor chain with the corner of his eye, but he just saw a flash of light, and the emperor chain disappeared out of thin air. 5 elements. Someone really got in. Lin Fei couldn't help but screamed, and the evil spirit was also messy, and the righteous fire suddenly surged. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1789. Who is coming? Why can't I feel it? Lin Fei, don't lie to me. If there is a problem with the evil spirit of Zhengguo, the 5 elements loose immortal will also be affected, so he will naturally be dissatisfied. Moreover, he had concerns about Lin Fei and would never trust him easily. I didn't lie to you. Look, the emperor chain is still there. Lin Fei stretched out his finger, and after the 5 elements Xianxia stabilized his figure a little, he also looked along his finger. In an instant, he also shouted in shock, where is the emperor's chain? Where has it gone? This imperial chain has been binding him from the chaos and back to the Purgatory Mountain. He couldn't be more familiar. And here, after he was untied by Lin Fei, although he didn't pay too much attention, he still knew that he had been left in the bottom of the valley. However, at this time, except for the heaven talisman and talisman brush not far away, there was nothing else. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart, and quickly spread his immortal consciousness, regardless of the physical loss in his body. With his strength, within a moment, his immortal consciousness had completely covered the entire mountain pass, but Zhu Yun's fire escape technique was so mysterious that it actually escaped his immortal consciousness. No one. The 5 elements loose immortal's face darkened and he shouted, Lin Fei, are you the one who caused this? The human heart of the immortal, the 5 elements, you and I are in the same boat, what's the benefit of me lying to you? If I let you lose this place, it will be more difficult for me to get out. Seeing that the 5 elements loose immortal was blaming him, Lin Fei was furious. He kindly reminded him to prevent him from being attacked by others, but he was bitten back, and naturally he was very angry. If it's not you, who else could it be? Is there anyone else here besides us? The 5 elements loose immortal was not used to Lin Fei, and he laughed angrily, could it be Lin Zhenghong who only has the body of an immortal soul left? It's up to you whether you believe it or not, Lin Fei also said with a straight face, retreating towards the stone wall, but if you don't believe me, then we can only settle down. After that, he went straight into a hole in the stone wall. Here, even if the evil fire starts to burn him, he only needs to block one side. With his immortal lord status, he can naturally last for a long time. His understanding of this place, as the acting mountain master of Purgatory Mountain, far exceeds that of the five elements loose immortal. Sure enough, it's your fault, five elements loose immortal snorted coldly. Since Lin Fei quit, he wouldn't be taken advantage of and deal with Zheng Huo alone. He simply found a place to drill into the mountain wall. Get in. When the righteousness is no longer suppressed, it begins to recover itself. The righteousness will slowly suppress the evil. And as long as there is enough time, they will be refined into it. Zuyun doesn't need to take action. But if left alone, the time it would take to refine the two immortal lords would take at least 1,000 years. But will there be any accidents in this Purgatory Mountain formation? If these two people were allowed to escape, they would never have a chance again. Therefore, even if the two of them did not stop cooperating, he did not change his plan. Humph, there's a fight in the nest? Then my hope of solving them will be even greater. First trap the five elements loose immortal, and then untie the trap to kill Lin Fei. Zuyun carefully got out of the Purgatory Mountain formation and stood on the ceiling platform. Bei Minjiun came up to him and said, "Zuyun, are you okay?" Bei Minjiun herself did not dare to think about being unscathed in the face of two immortal kings. Her face was filled with concern, and she directly scanned her immortal consciousness regardless of Zuyun's thoughts. After making sure that Zuyun didn't have any scars on his body, he felt relieved. "Xiao Bei, I'm fine." Zuyun smiled slightly and said, "I still need you to take care of me next. I want to unite these five emperor chains." With that said, Zuyun not only took the emperor chain taken from Xian Wuxing in his hand, but also took out the one taken from the bottom of Purgatory Mountain. There are actually 5 emperor chains. Bei Minjiun was also greatly surprised, but after being shocked, she also reacted suddenly and exclaimed, "Are the 4 strings here tied to the immortal master?" Zuyun smiled and nodded. Bei Minjiun frowned and said, "You went there to find him later and released him?" Zuyun, "You want to be the immortal master?" "No," Zuyun denied with a smile, "only with this emperor chain, we can win this battle unscathed." "Xiaobei, you are an immortal king. If there is a crisis, you can escape even if you are injured. But I can't. I'm just a Luo Jingxian, if they try to kill me, I will die. And you?" Bei Minjiun looked into the seal. Although he couldn't see anything, he knew what was going on inside. There is nothing but normal fire. In such a small space, what is Zuyun's ability to come out safely? It's just an escape technique learned in the lower realm. I didn't expect it to be the most suitable here. Zuyun also explained casually to reassure Bei Minjiun, and then said, "Xian Wuxing said that these 5 emperor chains can be synthesized. When the time comes, I will bind one person, and you and I will work together to deal with the other person." "Okay, I'll listen to you first." Bei Minjiun now understands Zuyun and knows that his plans have always been careful. He nodded and said, "What about the immortal master?" Zuyun looked into the fairy world and said, "He has left. I gave him the news about the fountain of origin, maybe he will go search for it in the chaos." Bei Minjiun hesitated to speak, and thought for a moment before saying, "You go and refine the emperor chain first, I'll just watch it here for you." The two separated, and Zuyun returned to the cave again. However, he did not choose to refine it here directly. The emperor chain is a supreme immortal weapon, and he dare not guarantee what kind of noise it will cause. Only by entering his own glass world will he not be disturbed. And even if he is affected by the heavenly way of the glass world, the worst that can happen is that he will enter the chaos again. After appearing in the immortal mansion, Zuyun went straight into it and came to the cave he was most familiar with. Not to mention the memories of seeing things, now that he will never appear here when he comes to the immortal mansion like before, Zuyun can't help but feel emotional. Alas, let's refine the emperor chain first. He sat on the stone bed and crossed his legs, then took out the 5 emperor chains one by one and placed them on his legs one by one. The emperor chain is a supreme immortal item. If you only take 4 of them, you can control the 4 symbols law. Now that the 5 are integrated, I can use the 5 elements avenue, and combine the 5 into 1, which is naturally in line with the chaos law. If it really works, I will call you, Chaos Emperor Chain. Zuyun's eyes flashed, and his right hand stroked the 5 emperor chains one after another. When his palm came, the corresponding emperor chain would immediately appear in different colors: gold, wood, earth, water, fire. When the colors on the 5 emperor chains became extremely dazzling, Zuyun suddenly raised his hands above his head, and the emperor chain flew up in an instant, forming an iron ring above Zuyun's head. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1790. 5 colors intertwined. This scene is very familiar to Zuyun. At that time, from chi refining to foundation building, his dantian had such changes, like a 5-color turntable. It was only when he finally broke through the Dan formation that the 5 colors merged and a gray chaos seed appeared. To this day, Zuyun does not know where this chaos seed came from. Did he accidentally inhale a seed when he absorbed the chaos force in the chaos, allowing it to take root and sprout in the dantian, or was it because of his own reasons that the chaos seed was produced when he broke through? Zuyun did not delve into this issue. In any case, it has no negative impact on him now. Including this moment, Zuyun did not think much. He tried his best to control the 5 emperor chains to rotate above his head. According to his experience, the fusion of the 5 elements requires a certain speed, and finally it will be fused into the color of chaos. Chaos fairy power continuously flows out from the center of his palm. In the lower abdomen, the chaos lotus also tried its best, and the lotus leaves kept trembling, sending the chaos immortal power into Zuyun's 9 meridians. At the same time, the immortal palace did not lag behind. The original power absorbed by the dragon suppressing stone from the glazed world was also transformed into chaos immortal power. However, these chaos immortal powers are not too pure, and they need to pass through the chaos lotus before they can be fully used by Zuyun and exert the greatest effect. As Zuyun continued to control the chaos immortal power on the 5 emperor chains, the colors of the emperor chains that were crowned with the 5 laws of the 5 elements gradually entangled together. Of course, there was also a relationship with the faster and faster rotation. Until the 5 colors completely merged into one and became the same color as the chaos immortal power, Zuyun heard a loud bang from above his head. It's done. He waved his fist in his heart, and a sense of pride arose spontaneously. This was the first time he combined the 5 elements and chaos into a fairy weapon. The importance of this is no less than that of recombining the 2 sides of the universe glass mirror into the glass fairy mirror. During that process, Zuyun also gained a lot. This is due to his experience and some goodwill in his heart. For example, he did not give up Tang Liwen because she was almost a useless person. As a result, in the process of synthesizing the glass fairy mirror, Tang Liwen also gave him unintentional tips. Although Zuyun still does not know whether the universe represents time and space or space and time. But because of Lin Zhenghong, he knew that what he practiced was the law, and what he comprehended was the law, which had nothing to do with what he was called. Chaos Emperor Chain, collect. Feeling that the chaos immortal power on the emperor chain was stabilizing, Zuyun also shouted in a low voice, and in an instant, the emperor chain was like a large gray-white lock ring, slowly falling into Zuyun's hands. Too big, not easy to use. At this time, the length of the emperor chain was like 5 pieces spliced together. He stroked it lightly, without any spells in his mouth, and saw a flash of grey light. The next moment, the Chaos Emperor chain was like a bracelet, spread in the palm of his hand. Not bad, it can be big or small, just wear it on your hand, it will be convenient to use it. Zhu Yun chuckled, put it on his left wrist, and secretly said small, and then the Chaos Emperor chain became just right. Not bad, who would have thought that this is the Emperor chain that can trap the Immortal Lord? Zhu Yun was ecstatic, but at this time, he was just too arrogant, thinking that the entire fairy world was inferior to him. In fact, he also understood in his heart. The Chaos Emperor chain can trap all the human races in the fairy world, but it cannot restrain the demon race. However, first stabilize the internal situation, then deal with the external situation. I don't know what's going on with Wei. He had also thought about it in his mind. Once the problem of Chaos Star Sea was solved, he could go to the southern fairyland and deal with those invading demons from the southern region. Zhu Yun stood up and couldn't help touching the Chaos Emperor chain again, and then walked out of the cave. In the fairy house, the fairy power was a little thin. It was obvious that he had withdrawn a lot when refining and fusing. But the fairy house will also restore to a balance on its own. It doesn't need the dragon stone to come back, it's just a little slower. Now the fairy house is completely integrated with the glass world, but it is faintly detached from the world. Zhu Yun subconsciously looked up, but suddenly saw a stream of light. Huh? Did someone find this place? He was shocked and couldn't help but think of Ximan Yuanqing and Dongfang Bai. It can't be such a coincidence. Ximan Yuanqing's bracelet once escaped from Zhu Yun's control, and used Ji Tianqing's eldest son. Could it be that something went wrong? When he thought of this, Zhu Yun's heart tightened. If 2 immortals attacked at this time, it would be difficult to deal with them, unless he went to the chaos to intercept them before they entered the glass world. However, although the Emperor chain is combined into one, it is not always like this. He stroked the Emperor chain again, and wanted to split it into 5 again, just one thought. With a thought in his mind, Zhu Yun decided to meet the stream of light. But after staring at it for more than a breath, Zhu Yun secretly felt something was wrong. Ximan Yuanqing and Dongfang Bai entered the Mayanbei immortal kingdom together. Even if they entered the chaos, they would not be separated easily. Ximan Yuanqing is also a treacherous person, it is impossible for him to go alone. But this stream of light obviously only has one person. And it seems to be coming this way. Could it be that some powerful being has entered the chaos to search for treasure? Zhu Yun suddenly thought of something else. The glazed world is becoming more and more perfect, but it is not a complete world after all. If the way of heaven is not complete and immortals enter the world, then the glazed world will collapse. Thinking of this, Zhu Yun no longer hesitated, stepped into the air, and headed towards the stream of light. At the same time, his heart was shocked, and he pulled out the immortal soul hammer from his brow. This is also a supreme immortal weapon that can shock the soul of the immortal king. In addition, the realm can be suppressed in the chaos, and there is the Chaos Emperor chain as a backup. Even if the opponent is an immortal king, if there is only one person, Zhu Yun is sure to win. Zhu Yun is extremely fast. In just half a cup of tea, he has rushed out of the 9 heavens of the glazed world. As soon as he entered the void, he felt an extremely sharp sword energy. And that extremely familiar grey-white sword light? Chaos sword, sword immortal Wan Potion. Zhu Yun exclaimed in surprise, and then excitedly rushed over there. When Wan Potion saw the person coming, his expression first tightened, and then he showed ecstasy. Ha ha ha, Zhu Yun boy, you were also sucked into this void. He turned around and turned the direction of the Chaos Sword, and flew towards Zhu Yun. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1791. The two faced each other, almost using all their strength. After a few breaths, they were so close that they saw the joy on their faces face to face. Good boy, you actually became an immortal. Feeling the aura of Deluo Jinxian on Zuyun's body, Wan Potion was greatly surprised, but then he laughed wildly and said, "But it won't work if you become an immortal. Look at the aura on my body." He was extremely happy and had no scruples. He actually let go of all his aura and headed towards Zuyun's shroud. Although being suppressed by chaos can only reach the realm of Golden Immortal, the momentum will not change in any way. Have you met the Immortal Lord? Ha ha ha, all my memories have been restored. I am the #1 sword in the immortal world, a swordsman who can break the sky. Zuyunhan responded with a smile and waited for Wan Potion to finish laughing before he said, "Not only have I seen the Immortal Lord." After a pause, he raised his eyebrows and said, "I've killed him before." "You brat, I haven't seen you for so many years, and you still brag. You know how Ye Yang still brags." Wan Potion disagreed and said with a smile, "However, meeting you has confirmed to me that this place where chickens don't lay eggs and birds don't poop is actually in the fairy land." "Of course this is in the fairy world." Zuyun raised his eyebrows again and said, "Don't you know yet?" "How do I know?" Wan Potion's face collapsed and he said, "I am addicted to swordsmanship and don't ask about things in the immortal world, but I have never been to a few places, besides, I have never seen anyone here, so I don't know." "I know it's the fairy world." Zuyun suddenly realized, Wan Potion. No wonder he doesn't know much about the immortal world. When he came back to his senses, he suddenly thought of Zufeng and asked, "Lao Wan, you, Zufeng, and Lin Yu were sucked into the void together, but were you separated?" Wan Potion knew what he wanted to ask, so he chuckled and said, "You brat, your younger brother has been accepted as my apprentice, and I will teach him the supreme swordsmanship." Hearing this, Zuyun couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Zufeng is okay? Then where is he? Exist?" Wan Potion wanted to say it was over there, but when he stretched out his hand, he found that he had been looking for the breath of Jianshan all the way, and he couldn't remember the direction. His face suddenly stiffened and he laughed dryly, "That Zuyun, I seem lost. In the chaos, there is no direction. Unless you understand the four symbols law, you can tell the direction." But Wan Potion is only proficient in swordsmanship and never cares about other laws. Zuyun was also speechless. Wan Potion whispered, "But don't worry, he is fine in the demon refining tower, and if you meet him, you will definitely be surprised. This kid is really a talented monster, even my proud swordsmanship talent, in terms of his understanding and character, he is ashamed of himself." Zuyun frowned. Of course he knew Zufeng's talent. Just be afraid. May the wind go astray. Don't worry, Wan Potion saw this and said quickly, although he is currently practicing the magic sword, his mind is very upright. Moreover, he does not only practice swordsmanship. Zuyun sighed. Finally, we got the news about Zufeng, but we didn't know where Zufeng was. But suddenly, he thought of someone. Xianxia. This person must have known about the demon refining tower for a long time, and wanted Zuyun to help him find the demon refining tower. Perhaps there was a way to find the demon refining tower. If Wan Potion is asked to go find Xianxia, maybe he can get information from him. Zuyun's eyes lit up, he looked at Wan Potion, and said, "Old Wan, I have a way that might allow you to find Zufeng, but this way, requires killing someone." "Kill?" Wan Potion suddenly became filled with pride and said, "I've been here so much that I've lost my wits." As long as the person I kill has done something harmful to nature, I can convince myself to kill him. Zuyun was speechless again. However, Xianxia is indeed not a good person. Zuyun smiled and said, the man's name is Xianxia. He practices the three talents law and is proficient in alchemy. However, he once used Immortals as a guide to refine elixirs to help people break through. Damn it, there is such an alchemist. Wan Potion immediately blew his beard and glared, saying, where is the other person? Where is he? Tell me, I will cut him into pieces right now, cut him into pieces with 3 knives and 6 holes. Don't worry, Zuyun quickly waved his hand and said, he is in the fairy world. Have you heard of Mayanbei fairyland? Isn't there only the Sifang immortal realm in the immortal world? What kind of thing is this Mayanbei immortal kingdom? Zuyun narrowed his eyes and said, who told you that there is only the Sifang immortal realm? There is obviously a Chinese immortal realm. Chinese immortal realm. Wan Potion scratched his head, but couldn't remember it, so he simply said, 5 directions. Maybe it was Qiu Linjian's mother-in-law who inspired Ye Yong to become the immortal emperor. This was another unknown secret, but Zuyun did not ask. Knowing these secrets will not help him now. Nodding, he said, the person I told you is in the Mayanbei fairy kingdom. But if you want to go there, you still need to find an exit. But I don't have time to take you there. Please wait a moment, I'll refine a magic weapon for you so that you won't get lost in this. Zuyun has not refined weapons for a long time, and has never refined immortal weapons. But as long as he uses the law of 4 symbols and uses the changes in the power of chaos as a guide, he can create a compass so that he can find the exit of chaos. But Wan Potion suddenly slapped his head and said, I'm so happy to meet you. I even forgot what I came here to do. Zuyun was also reminded by these words, as if facing a formidable enemy, are you here to look for Sword Mountain? Yes, Jianshan. I was deceived by Nangong Tianli back then. Not only did I lose Jianshan, I also lost my immortal sword and Wuji sword technique. Isn't it precisely in this void that I discovered the aura of Jianshan? Well, I hurriedly searched for it. Hey, is Sword Mountain in the fairyland ahead? I'm coming. After that, he didn't say hello to Zuyun at all. He flashed and turned into a sword light, passing Zuyun's body and about to fly into the Liulai world. In his eyes, the glass world is not yet formed, it is just a circular spinning fairyland. And as the world rotates, he can also feel the aura of Jianshan getting stronger and weaker. Lao Wan, stay. Zuyun exclaimed, but Wan Potion didn't stop at all, and left a sentence, when I take the Sword Mountain, and then invite you to take a bath in the sword pool of my Sword Mountain, I can tell you, the sword power in my sword pool can wash away the dirt on your body. Seeing that Wan Potion had no intention of stopping, Zuyun became anxious. But how to stop it at this time? If he used the chaos escape technique, he could run quite fast. But the problem is, Wan Potion is like a muscle, and his brain doesn't seem to work very well. Is there anything he can't do to stop this? Zuyun raised his hand subconsciously, and the Chaos Emperor chain on his wrist rattled. Is it possible that we need to tie him up with the Emperor's chain before we start? Even he himself did not expect that before the Chaos Emperor chain was completed, Wan Potion would have to be tied up first. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1792. At this moment, Zuyun couldn't care less about friendship. It was about the world of Liulai. How could he dare to let Wan Potion enter it? Immediately, he just moved in his heart, and the Chaos Emperor chain on his wrist suddenly grew in size, rushed out from his hand, and chased after the Wan Po Tian sword. Feeling the inexplicable pressure coming from behind, Wan Potion couldn't help but feel nervous. He quickly looked back and found that the Emperor chain was flying directly in front of him. He couldn't help but exclaimed, "Little thief Zuyun, you dare to trick me." Ha ha ha, Zuyun saw the panic on his face and laughed, "I told you to stay, but you don't, then I have no choice but to ask you to stay." As soon as he finished speaking, the Emperor chain suddenly moved toward Wan Po Tian. "Little thief, if I don't poke your broken iron chain, my chaos sword is the best sword in the sword world." Wan Potian was furious. With a flick of his hand, the chaos sword appeared in his hand, and then he slashed it down in the air. Boom! There was a loud noise, and in the chaos, those free chaotic forces were also affected. Zuyun even had an illusion that Wan Potian's sword seemed to break through the chaos. Just when he was worried about whether the Chaos Emperor chain could withstand the sword, he saw a flash of grey light. Instantly, the Chaos Emperor chain disappeared from the place as if he himself had used the Chaos Escape technique. Huh? This magical weapon is quite mysterious. Wan Potian let out a startled sound, then his eyes flashed, he turned half sideways and swept the sword in his hand backwards. Wow! The Emperor chain indeed appears here. Zuyun exclaimed in his heart that Wan Potian was so powerful that he didn't even realize where the Emperor chain was, but he could sense it first. Is it the immortal knowledge of the immortal lord, or is it instinct? This thought only passed by for a moment, and he immediately put away his thoughts and looked over. The reaction of this Emperor chain was also very fast. He twisted the middle circle and just avoided the sword. At the same time, he thrust forward the upper half circle and headed towards the 10,000 posable sky cover. Good guy, Zuyun, this magical weapon of yours is quite powerful. Wan Potian's Wuji sword technique was also extremely mysterious. He stepped on the void and turned upside down, with his head down and his feet up. However, he retracted his legs and kicked out hard when the Chaos Emperor's chain came around. The soles of the two legs were pushing towards the outer ring of the Chaos Emperor chain. But who would have thought that the Emperor's chain swayed with a crash and became a little larger? Wan Potian's expression changed, as if he was about to get into the Emperor's chain. You fell into the trap, such a treacherous boy Zuyun. He didn't even have time to close his legs, but he felt his legs tighten, and the Chaos Emperor chain was like shackles, locking him tightly like a prisoner. Boy Zuyun, you are going too far. Wan Potian found that he couldn't hold the Chaos Emperor chain open, so he screamed, holding the sword in his hand and slashed between his legs. He wanted to cut the Chaos Emperor chain into two pieces, and he didn't care about Zuyun. How about the magic weapon? Zuyun was shocked. The Chaos Emperor chain he had finally fused was used to deal with the 5 elements loose immortals. If Wan Potian were to destroy it, wouldn't his efforts be wasted and all his plans would be ruined? He wanted to step forward to stop him, but Wan Potian's sword was too fast. The Chaos sword suddenly slashed forward. Clang! The clash of gold and iron, and even the chaos force that was stirred around, collapsed in an instant and disappeared into nothingness. One can imagine how powerful Wan Potian's sword is. But what shocked Zuyun was that the Chaos Emperor chain was unscathed. Not only that, but Wan Potian's sword with all his strength produced a huge backlash, making him unable to hold onto the Chaos sword and flying into chaos. This. Zuyun's eyes widened in shock, and so did Wan Potian. The two stared at each other with big eyes. Little thief Zuyun, you actually used such a powerful magical weapon against me. Suddenly, Wan Potian cursed loudly. Zuyun touched his nose and wanted to apologize, but as if he remembered something, he couldn't help but said angrily, didn't you still use the Chaos sword to attack my fairy weapon? Isn't that because you tied me up? Why did you tie me up? I just want to find Xianxia. After Wan Potian regained his memory, he also had a bad temper. In other words, this is the case for all sword cultivators. Zuyun sneered, you are looking for Xianxia, and I didn't stop you. But the place you want to go to is not the fairyland, but the world I refined. You are so strong, if you go in, This world will collapse. So what should I do? The world you refined. Wanpotion suddenly stopped and took a breath of cold air. As an immortal lord like him, he naturally knows how difficult it is to refine the world. It can be said that to this day, he has never heard of anyone who has successfully refined a world. Yes, my world, Zuyun raised his eyebrows and said, the world has not yet been completed, and the way of heaven is not complete. If you enter it and destroy the way of heaven, I will have no place to cry. Boy Zuyun, are you telling the truth? Wanpotion didn't care about turning his body upside down and quickly flew over and asked. Is there any benefit for me to lie to you? To be honest, I retrieved your sword mountain from Nangong Tianli and put it in this world. Then why don't you pay me back? Wanpotion blew his beard and glared again. Repay? Why? I don't know whether you are dead or alive. Zuyun curled his lips and said, how about I find a way to fish the sword mountain out and return it to you? Real? The sword fairy looked suspicious, not because he didn't believe it, but because Zuyun tied him up without saying a word. Even this chain, his chaos sword couldn't cut it. I don't need to lie to you, Zuyun also smiled bitterly, and said, at that time, Lin Zhenghong told me that he would return Jianshan to Jianxian. I wanted to return it, but I didn't find you. How could I return it? It's impossible to just throw it somewhere else casually. You kid, even Lin Zhenghong knows. Wanpotion was shocked again. Yes, I told you that I have seen many immortals, but you just don't believe it. Wanpotion was silent for a moment, and said, okay, I believe you, then can you let me go first? No problem. Zuyun came back to his senses. Although it was unintentional, the performance of the Chaos Emperor chain was completely beyond his expectations. He had also used the Chaos Sword, which was invincible. But then again, it seems that the Chaos Sword can't cut the Demon Refining Tower. So the Demon Refining Tower is also a supreme immortal weapon? But this was clearly made by the evil cultivator Yao Fuzang, who was only in the Mahayana stage at that time. Even if it was made according to the immortal world's refining method, it couldn't be so strong. Thinking of this, another person suddenly popped up in Zuyun's mind. Lian Zhenxianjun. This immortal who was killed by him, the refining method of the demon refining tower was deliberately passed down by him. In an instant, a strange idea popped up in Zuyun's mind. Could it be that the demon refining tower also has the law of time? In addition, the space inside the demon refining tower is vast. Could it be? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1793. Hey, boy Zuyun, let me go. Seeing Zuyun suddenly froze on the spot, Wanpotion couldn't help shouting. Let it go, I'll let it go now. Zuyun came back to his senses, and with just a thought, the Chaos Emperor chain suddenly let go, and then turned into a bracelet and returned to his wrist. Boy, you don't have much ability, but you do have a lot of magical weapons. Wanpotion curled his lips, feeling indescribable envy. Wanpotion naturally recognized the immortal soul hammer in his hand earlier. He, Zuyun laughed twice and said, I will get you the sword mountain, and you will act according to the plan we made before. How about it? Look for that Zhao Qianke, he is just a Lucian immortal, I won't take him seriously. Wanpotion moved his feet, and with a movement of his hands, the chaos sword that had been blown away suddenly flew back into his hand. After staring at Zuyun for a few breaths, he threw the chaos sword over in the air and said, put the chaos sword on the sword mountain, and I can take the sword mountain away by myself. Is this enough? Zuyun took over the chaos sword, and a sense of familiarity suddenly arose, but there were mixed feelings in his heart. Buzz. The chaos sword seemed to sense what Zuyun was thinking, and couldn't help but make a clear sound. Humph, you want to please me now? You helped Nujiao leave me in the first place. Zuyun muttered, but didn't care. Think about it from the perspective of the Chaos Sword. There is nothing wrong with its choice. If not, the Chaos Sword would not return to the hands of Wan Potion in the end, and finally break through the secret realm of ascension and reach the chaos. And in the end, Nujiao was also integrated into Mengwei. Buzz. The Chaos Sword sounded again. Zuyun was stunned for a moment and then said, "You want to find Nujiao?" Without waiting for Chaos Sword to respond, Zuyun shook his head again and said, "There is no Nujiao now, only Mengwei. If you really want to find it, maybe you can go to Luanzingai." Wan Potion frowned and said, "Boy Zuyun, if you want to use me, just say so. What do you say about my sword?" Zuyun was dumbfounded, then laughed loudly, and then said, "I didn't ask you to kill super talents, it's just because you want to find the demon refining tower again. As for chaotic star sea, I won't go, even if you kill me, I won't go." Wan Potion shook his head like a rattle. "If you don't go, you won't go. What's the big reaction?" Zuyun said disapprovingly. "I'm going to help you get back the Sword Mountain now. If you come back to the demon refining tower, how about telling me a message?" "What words?" Wan Potion asked immediately. He was a little surprised. He would have thought that Zuyun asked him to bring Zhu Feng here. "Stick to your heart. That's it? That's it?" After that, Zuyun took the Chaos Sword and rushed back to the Liulai world. When he arrived at the Sword Mountain, he also felt the excitement coming from the Chaos Sword. He let go slightly, and the Chaos Sword flew away and stuck directly on the top of the Sword Mountain. The next moment, a boundless sword power came from the Sword Mountain. At the same time, he also saw the sword power in the sword pool, which was also constantly surging. Zuyunzhen was looking at it with enthusiasm, but suddenly he heard a loud noise. He didn't know whether it was Wan Potion's doing, or the Chaos Sword brought up the Sword Mountain, and flew towards the 9 heavens like a flying peak in the opposite direction. "It's quite interesting." Zuyun watched Xianxia fly away, following closely with his eyes. It wasn't until the Sword Mountain turned into a point of light that it flew up. In comparison, his speed was much faster than Xianxia. By the time Xianxia flew into the chaos, he had already arrived. "Lao Wan, do you want to take this Xianxia with you to the Mayan Bay Fairyland?" Zuyun asked curiously. Superficial, Wan Potion glanced at Zuyun with a look of disgust and said, "You are also a person who has refined a world. You don't even know the laws of space, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, he saw light flowing in Wan Potion's hand. It was the law of space. The next moment, this huge mountain of swords went straight into the blade of the Chaos Sword. Mountains can be swords, swords can be mountains, everything can be swords, and swords can be everything. Wan Potion looked like he was preaching and looked proudly at Zuyun. "Oh!" Zuyun chuckled, raised his hand and shook it. The Chaos Emperor chain clattered. "Boy Zuyun, see you later. I will bring your words to Zhu Feng." Wan Potion fled, causing Zuyun to laugh. But after a moment, Zuyun remembered that he had even said that he would refine an immortal weapon containing the law of 4 symbols for him. He left as soon as he said so, and he would get lost again later. How could he find the exit from chaos? In chaos, the biggest problem is not the vastness of the space, but the inability to discern direction. If I'm slightly distracted, I can't remember southeast, northwest, up, down, left, and right. After looking at his own glass world, Zuyun thought for a moment and decided to catch up first. Although Wan Potion was fast, it was not as fast as his chaos escape technique. Zuyun's heart moved and he immediately chased after him. Chaos Star C, Holy Demon Star. Mengwei stood gracefully in front of the stone statue of the Holy Demon Totem, and beside her was Maha Ming. "Holy girl, I don't know where the Demon Lord is hiding. Ma Heming bowed slightly and his tone was extremely respectful. Mobilize the whole world's clansmen, and whoever finds the demon lord, I will let him practice under the totem for 3 years. Immortals practice laws. The demons practiced magic skills, which were inherited from their ancestors. If they practiced under the totem pole, they would get twice the result with half the effort. But, after a slight hesitation, Ma Heming met Meng Wei's gaze. Ming Emozun, you are the only one in the entire holy demon star who knows my true purpose. Sometimes the pain is necessary. I know my crime. Ma Heming knelt on the ground without hesitation. Go, I still need to refine the totem and let him recognize me. Whether we can change the fate of our holy demon clan starts from the totem. After that, Meng Wei shook his hand and took out his magic knife. Then, she muttered something, and a fire dragon appeared on her body. The fire dragon raised its claws and raised the magic knife with great piety. The yin-yang chaos circle on the handle of the knife was aimed at the eyeball of the holy demon totem. Buzz! The totem stone statue began to shake. The magic knife also made a clear sound. It was as if there was a contest between the two. Ma Heming looked at this place in fear, and then quietly retreated. The task that the saint gave me, is a long way to go. Thinking of everything he saw in the glass world, he knew it very well. That was the way out for their saint demon clan. It was indeed as Meng Wei said, to change the fate of their saint demon clan, they needed to change a way. After staying in the Chaos Star Sea for hundreds of thousands of years, they were no different. Ma Heming knew better than any other member of the tribe that the current demon lord was the obstacle to their rebirth. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1794. This old thing flies really fast. Zuyun muttered. He used the chaos escape technique to chase the direction Wan Potion left, but he was nowhere to be seen for a long time, and he couldn't help but think in his heart. But how did he know that the realm of immortals would be suppressed in chaos? Although Wan Potion was suppressed, he still wielded a sword. The chaos sword was once used by Zuyun, so it inevitably took over the law of chaos. Naturally, just as Zuyun's chaos escape technique was not affected, it was also extremely fast. The reason why Wan Potion didn't realize that this place was chaos. But fortunately, although the chaos sword was imbued with the law, it was not as perfect as Zuyun. After chasing for several days, Wan Potion was found. Lao Wan, wait! Zuyun roared angrily, and Wan Potion turned around and couldn't help but cursed, "You brat, it's been a few days, and you're still chasing me." Zuyun didn't give any face at all, and yelled back, "Damn it, do you know where this is? I was afraid that you would get lost again, so I caught up with you." "Where?" Wan Potion's face froze before he discovered this problem. Because Xianxia is back again, he is a little too excited. "Do you understand now?" Zuyun sneered and said, "I originally planned to refine an immortal weapon containing the law of 4 symbols for you, but now it's okay. You have traveled so far. If you want to refine it, I have to go back to the Liulai world." It is not difficult for him to go back, but it is equivalent to leaving Wan Potion here again. If he wants to look for him when the time comes, what if he runs away again? "Do you understand the law of 4 symbols?" Wan Potion was surprised again. "I understand." Zuyun spread his hands and said, "You should have seen me in Qingping Fairy Kingdom. I know the 4 directions Divine Beast Fist." "I've seen it before," Wan Potion nodded, and then said, "but it's just a lower realm boxing technique, I don't think anything of it." Another reason is that Wan Potion did not recover his memory at that time. Thinking of it now, I couldn't help but feel a little frightened. This kid can actually understand such laws from boxing, which is really amazing. There are countless laws in the fairy world. Some laws cannot be touched or understood. But some rules are well known. But it is extremely difficult to realize it. For example, 2 instruments, 3 talents, 4 images, 5 elements, etc. This kind of thing exists between heaven and earth. Others can be contaminated, but they may not be able to figure out the rules. 4 symbols is naturally one of them. The fairy world has inherent legends about the 4 mythical beasts that have been guarding and stabilizing the fairy world since ancient times. But no one has ever said that they have seen the ancient beast. The reason why the word ancient is added to the mythical beast is to distinguish between today's mythical beasts, dragons, and phoenixes. As for the dragon and phoenix clans, you can often hear news about them, and even see a lot of people. Wan Potion was naturally extremely surprised when he heard what Zuyun said at this time. Of course, is it difficult? Zuyun spread his hands and said, the 4 elephants guard the 4 directions, and the 4 convenient directions are the directions. For example, when I practice formations, I also use many positions, which are based on the 4 elephants. Not to mention anything else, originally where we were the yellow star, the mortal world is divided into 4 parts, doesn't it coincide with the way of the 4 images? But with the addition of the 5 elements, the law is everywhere, it depends on your understanding. Zuyun pretended to be relaxed and returned all the arrogant look he had before. You kid. Wan Potion didn't know what Zuyun was thinking, but if he really understood the laws of the 4 symbols, it would be much easier to walk in this chaos. He nodded and said, well, as long as you are not in a hurry to kill Xianxia, I can go back to that world with you. I can wait outside. Zuyun was naturally unhappy because he wasted some time. But he couldn't blame Wan Potion. He could only say that he didn't say it in time. Let's go. As soon as Zuyun stood up, Wan Potion suddenly remembered and said, wait a minute, since you understand the law of 4 symbols, why do you want to go back to your world first? Isn't this far from the exit of chaos? If it's not far, you take me out first. To be honest, it would be extremely uncomfortable for anyone who has recovered his realm but is suppressed by the outside world and unable to exert his full strength. Not to mention a person with an out-of-touch temperament like Wan Potion. Here. Zuyun looked around and held several immortal secrets in his hand, with the power of law flowing through his fingertips. After a while, he was pleasantly surprised to find that it was really not too far from the exit. It's only about half a month's journey. Walk. Zuyun looked in the direction of the chaos exit and tilted his head. Walk. Wan Potion is also very happy. He can go out early, why do he have to wait? Xianxia returned, and his strength also increased greatly. And he is one of the most powerful immortal kings in the immortal world. Zuyun thought for a moment and said, as I said before, I will send you to the entrance of chaos, and then I will go back. After you have finished your work, you can wait for me in my Anbei fairyland. How about that? It's easy to say, after all, I still have to find that boy Zhu Feng. Wan Potion also laughed and said, he was in a very good mood. But then, Zuyun realized a problem. Then, do you still remember the way back? Ah! Wan Potion was stunned for a moment. Zuyun knew the answer, and his face could not help but darken. We finally found the news about Zhu Feng, but Wan Potion couldn't find him. Forget it, he is very safe in the chaos, Zuyun thought for a while and decided to start with Xianxia. He said, Xianxia may have a way to find the demon refining tower. When the time comes, you can ask more and maybe you will get something. However, I suggest that you better not wander around in the chaos, lest I can't find you again. No, no. Wan Potion also knew that he was a little guilty and nodded repeatedly. The two of them didn't say anything more. They hurried and appeared at the entrance of the chaos half a month later. Through this hole that appeared out of thin air, they could see the fairy snow falling all over the sky. It's a bit interesting. Wan Potion blinked. He could see that all the snow was transformed by the chaos power in the chaos. The name of the Cotton North Fairyland comes from this. Zuyun said lightly, and two figures suddenly passed through the entrance of the chaos. The next moment, two people on one side, staring at each other. It was Dongfang Bai and Ziman Yuanqing. Zuyun kid. Ziman Yuanqing's eyes were about to burst, and he stretched out his palm and slapped him. Dongfang Bai's eyes flashed, and he turned his hand and slapped it, and countless immortal powers surged in an instant. Damn, it turned out to be you two dog immortal emperors. But I didn't expect that Wan Potion would be able to attack first after cursing. The sword flashed, and the arms of the two immortal emperors were cut off. All four were suppressed by the chaos. But the power of the chaos sword will not have any effect. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1795. A sword light, two arms. Wan Potion was so powerful that Zuyun couldn't help but look shocked. Is this the strength of sword cultivation? It is true that there is a relationship between chaos. But it is equivalent to being able to cut off two arms with one sword in the same realm. Wan Potion, why are you a thief in the chaos? Ziman Yuanqing's arm was crippled by Zuyun at that time, and he finally rebuilt it, but it was cut off again not long after. He looked frightened, cursed, turned around and ran away to the entrance of chaos. Dongfang Bai also wanted to curse, but it could be seen that his companions fled so fast, and even if they dared to stay, they were closely followed. Ha ha ha, the majestic immortal emperor is like a lost dog when he sees me. Wan Potion's eyes were shining and he was extremely arrogant. He held his sword and chased after him. Lao Wan, wait. Seeing this, Zuyun hurriedly shouted, wanting him to stay. After chaos and restrictions, he no longer has such an advantage. But Wan Po Tianqil was so strong that he could not listen to Zuyun's words. The sword flashed and the person disappeared. Damn it! Zuyun also cursed, gritted his teeth, held the immortal soul hammer tightly, and chased after him. He was completely different inside and outside the chaos. But if two immortal emperors join forces, Wan Potion may be in danger. But just in case. But will killing these two immortal emperors make the situation in the immortal world better? With this idea in mind, Zuyun decided to take the risk. At worst, I'll escape into the Liulai world again. As soon as he escaped from the chaos and entered the Mayanbei immortal kingdom, Zuyun was suppressed by the power of the three intertwined immortal lords. Fortunately, at this entrance, the chaos power in the chaos kept pouring out, turning into chaos fairy snow all over the sky, which resisted a lot for him. Chaos Lotus. Zuyun shouted in his heart, and the chaos lotus in his lower abdomen immediately bloomed with grey light. Immediately, he felt the pressure on his body suddenly reduce, but it was still almost impossible to take action. Original power. Zuyun shouted again, and the original power in the immortal mansion quickly rushed into the chaos lotus. The light of the chaos lotus is brighter, and the chaos immortal power is more powerful. Not only does it fill the whole body, it also affects the chaos immortal snow in the outside world. The fairy snow fell on his body and slowly turned into fairy liquid, forming a grey-white, thin protective shield. You can even see the flow of immortal power, which relieves the pressure of the three immortal monarchs. Zuyun finally let out a sigh of relief. If that didn't work, he would definitely turn around and escape into the chaos. Lowering his head slightly, he saw that the sky below was still thousands of feet high. The immortal snow became much thinner due to his absorption, and his vision was very clear, but he still couldn't see the fight between the three immortal monarchs, just the silhouettes of people intersecting one after another. Shen-I technique. Zuyun roared again, directing part of the chaotic power into his eyes. This time, I was finally able to capture the actions of these people. I saw Wanpotion holding the Chaos Sword, 1 against 2, with the sword pointed at their broken arms. As for Ximen Yuanqing and Dongfang Bai, the power of laws was flowing through their bodies, and the remaining one-armed men each held a supreme fairy weapon. Immortal light circulates, laws linger, and it actually faintly suppresses Wanpotion. Zuyun reached out and touched his chest, thinking about how to help Wanpotion. But without thinking, Wanpotion suddenly shouted, "Boy Zuyun, why don't you come and help me?" As soon as these words came out, the two immortal emperors in the middle of the fight quickly raised their heads and looked towards this place. In an instant, the power of the two immortal emperors locked onto him. "Bitch, no one will think you are mute if you don't speak." Zuyun cursed secretly in his heart, and without hesitation, turned around and dived into the chaos. He originally wanted to sneak attack, but if you shout like this, how can I sneak attack? Brother Dongfang, should you kill Wanpotion first, or kill that kid? Ximen Yuanqing gritted his teeth, but still asked Dongfang Bai for his opinion. That kid is no better than De Luo Jingxian, it's better to kill Wanpo Genius first. Dongfang Bai didn't know Zuyun. All the information about Zuyun came from Ximen Yuanqing's dictation, so naturally he wouldn't take him seriously. Ximen Yuanqing thought about it and realized that this was also the case. In comparison, Wanpotion, who is also in the chaos, poses a greater threat to them. And they want to enter the chaos to find the source of origin. So, Ximen Yuanqing recovered his thoughts and dealt with Wanpotion wholeheartedly. Under this, Wanpotion gradually fell into a disadvantage, and he couldn't help but cursed, "Little thief Zuyun, take out your bracelet and lock one of them. If you don't come to help, I will die here." He didn't know it was the Emperor chain yet, but he just felt that Zuyun himself, an immortal lord, could lock it, so it shouldn't be a problem to lock any immortal emperor, right? The reason why he chased after him was because he had cooperated with Zuyun in Qingping Immortal Kingdom and by the Duanxian River in Duxian Town. Based on his understanding of Zuyun, he is not such a person who is afraid of death. If he had known this, how could he dare to chase him out? This angry and cursing sound reached Zuyun's ears through the chaos entrance, making him grit his teeth in anger. He had just made up his mind to use the Emperor chain to lock one person, and then use the Immortal Mirror Master's time stop law to deal with the other person, so that Wanpotion could kill him directly. But this old thief actually revealed all his trump cards in one breath. How could I make a sneak attack? When Ximen Yuanqing heard Wanpotion's words, he was also shocked and said, "Brother Dongfang, let's stay away. That guy has the Emperor chain." He saw with his own eyes that the 5 elements loose immortal was tied up and couldn't move. If he hadn't run fast at that time, how could he have lost an arm so easily? He was afraid that even his life would be lost in the chaos. Emperor chain? Isn't the Emperor chain in Lin Fei's hands? Dongfang Bai was also shocked. That was a supreme immortal weapon. Although it would not kill him after being tied up, he would become a prisoner of others. The absence of the Emperor chain meant that something had happened at Purgatory Mountain. Thinking of this, Dongfang Bai also looked up at the entrance of the chaos from time to time, fearing that Zuyun would come out at any time. He also thought about it. If Zuyun tied up Ximen Yuanqing, he would leave immediately and escape far away, and escape back to his own Eastern Immortal Emperor realm. No matter what. Ximen Yuanqing was thinking the same thing. The two fought and retreated, forcing Wanpotion to fall. Zuyun was stared at, and was extremely helpless. He had no idea where to start, and could only watch Wanpotion gradually lose the upper hand. Old Wan, don't blame me for being unrighteous. Who told you to be so outspoken? Zuyun shook his head, feeling helpless. He had a good relationship with Wanpotion. But there was really no way to chase him at the risk of his own death. But don't worry, you are going to die here. When I become an immortal king and the laws of time and space are perfected, I will pull you out of the long river of time and space.